What are protective hairstyles, and do we truly need them? Protective hairstyles is a term used for any hairstyle that supposedly protects your hair from split ends, breakage, and dehydration. But is that truly the case, or is this just another tool to encourage Afro hair dysmorphia? Let's start with how the trend of protective hairstyles started. When we think of authentic protective hairstyles, we think of Afrocentric styles such as braids, twists, threading, cornrows, bantu knots, and much, much more. But were they always protective styles? The answer is no. In ancient and pre-colonial African societies, these styles, amongst others, were not actually intended for the protection of one's hair. They were simply styles used to showcase one's status, beauty, and importance in that society. People could easily guess a person's tribe and background simply by looking at the braiding styles. Similarly, some styles had negative stereotypes attached to them, depending on the tribe and culture. For instance, locks had a different meaning in numerous communities, which is why you will still find some old West African elders thinking someone is a babalawo for having locks. To this day, we only see very few African communities continue the tradition of these styles not being a protective style, but a way to represent one's status and culture. The Himba, for instance, cover their hair in clay, a style which is beauty standard in their community and helps them stand out from other tribes. The moment you see that hairstyle, you immediately know where their roots lie. Similarly, the Fulani, a nomadic tribe across West Africa, had distinct cornrow designs and makeup for both men and women, repping their community and culture, or the cornrow braids of Ethiopia. If you saw someone wearing them, you would immediately know they were of the Habesha tribe of Ethiopia. My point is, none of those were created with the intention of it being a protective style. They were created to be a beauty standard and a way to recognize someone's status. Ancient Africans knew how to take care of their hair, and they didn't rely on protective styles for them to be healthy. After all, Afro hair is a texture that thrives in humid and warm conditions. Curly hair provided the best protection from the sun's heat and minimized the need to sweat to stay cool. Curly hair being made for warm weather is another reason why it's a dry texture in winter seasons, since it doesn't produce as much oil as straighter texture that naturally needs the grease to stay strong and healthy in dry and cold weather conditions. But why do we need protective hairstyles now? The answer is, we don't. Due to the policing of Afro hair that went on during slavery and pre-colonial times in the Americas and most African nations, many generations of people got so used to hiding their hair and manipulating its texture. It led to generations after them forgetting or never knowing how to truly care and look after Afro hair. When you don't know your hair, you become frustrated because you don't quite know where to start to look after it. On top of that, only using products catered to straighter textures or products created to mimic straighter hair textures is going to help reinforce the idea of Afro hair being difficult and hard to maintain. As a result, people became more dependent on braids, twists, weaves, wigs, etc., and saw it as an easy way to grow their hair. However, did it truly grow their hair? I mean, we see how fast and healthy the hair of most black boys and men grow, and they don't need those protective styles? Well, yes and no. Your hair grows in protective styles because that's what hair does. It grows. However, the new growth is more obvious when in braids or cornrows, leading to people thinking those styles are specifically make their hair grow. On top of that, When hair is in a protective style, you leave your hair alone, manipulating it less, giving it enough time to just grow in peace. But then why do most people's hair stay the same length regardless? That is because none of those protective styles lead to length retention. What makes protective hairstyling so attractive to most people is the idea that they don't have to do anything to or with their hair for weeks and months. But then how can you retain length? Curly and kinky hair need much more attention in countries that have multiple seasons. The hair is drier and more prone to breakage in cold weather because the hair texture is not naturally oily. That's the main reason why we don't have to wash our hair as often. Our hair, just like our skin, is made for warm and humid weather. The ends of your hair need more attending to not lose length. When your hair is in protective styles such as cornrows, braids, with extensions for multiple weeks, you will be able to moisturize your scalp perfectly fine, but there is no way to properly moisturize the ends and lengths of your hair. This means that while you're taking your protective styles out, you will be pleased with the new growth seen from your scalp, but displeased once it comes to the detangling and washing process because of the loss of hair retention. Protective hairstyles, such as single twists and braids without extensions, are the best way to keep both your scalp and ends happy, since it's easier to moisturize. Unlike styles with extensions, cornrows, or any style that prevents you from looking at those ends daily. An argument that is often brought up when discussing protective styling is that Afro hair is too difficult and unmanageable. It's a lie. Any hair texture is difficult and hard if you don't know how to take care of it. There is no self-care process that should ever, by quick, self-care is always going to take time when done right. But why do so many people struggle with taking care of their natural hair? Numerous factors. Number 1. When you wear protective styles, back to back to back, for the vast majority of the year, you are not going to know what to do or where to start when finally seeing your afro in ages. You are going to have to get to know your natural hair from new all over again. Number 2, too much manipulation due to protective styling. The back-to-back protective styling weakens your hair, meaning you are going to have to put in more effort and add more routines in order to give your hair all the love and care it needed, but didn't get for months. You are going to have to detangle more carefully, and as a result, for much longer. You are going to have to do more deep conditioning. You are going to feel more pain when detangling. You are going to feel more frustration from seeing breakage. You are going to have to moisturize a lot more. Why? Because your hair was starving or is starving the other 300 days of the year, being hidden away in protective styles. 3. Texturism. The idea of natural hair being time-consuming is also partly due to texturism. People don't like seeing how their hair naturally coils or how it looks when frizzy. So, they look for numerous ways to make curls appear bigger or the texture to look sleek. As a result, many invest a lot of time to manipulate their natural texture and, well, frustration grows when things don't go to plan, e.g. when a twist out doesn't come out looking juicy or curly enough. People will take more than 1 hour to put on a full face of makeup and lay their wig every day, but the idea of taking 1 or 2 or 1 day in the week to give your hair the self-love and care it needs stresses a lot of people out. Number 4, beauty standards. People are way too obsessed with what is or isn't considered beautiful, and it affects how they view themselves and style themselves. I had that when discussing natural hair. Too many people shift the topic to, oh, but men like this, and, Oh, this texture attracts this. Like, why does all this matter? Are you living for other people? I can bet money that if afros became the standard tomorrow, if non black people started wearing afro wigs tomorrow, the same people complaining will suddenly find 3 hours a day to do their afro hair. It's kind of similar to how some people went from saying box braids and Fulani braids were childish to suddenly seeing so many women rocking box braids and Fulani braids because Kim Kardashian was pictured in them, or suddenly loving Bantu knots because Chloe was pictured in them. People wanted to prove a point. I think those same people would want to prove a point again if white mainstream celebrities started wearing 4C hair on their head. There's absolutely nothing wrong with loving braiding extensions, wigs, weave, or any other style. However, calling it a protective style is a lie. Our hair is not a disability. It's not weak. It doesn't need anything to grow. It grows naturally. The only reason people don't want to drop the false idea of protective styling is because there is a lot of money in this. There is a lot of money in selling synthetic or human hair. There is a lot of money in selling products specifically made for these so-called protective styles. And well, there's a lot of money in this for hairstylists too. There is a reason why a lot of hair salons focus on the styling of afro hair instead of the health of afro hair. Imagine if the majority of black women started going to hair salons only for hair care, for instance, to only cut split ends or only get their hair washed or conditioned or even dyed, versus going to get weave, wigs, braids, etc. All that cost well above $200 on average. You're adding weight to your roots and scalp, that on and the tightness already increasing the risk of alopecia. And on top of that, you don't get to moisturize your hair ends for numerous weeks. We still want to call this a protective style. Let's just call these styles what they are. Styles. Not protective, just styles. Hairstyles that we find beautiful because they look beautiful and because it's cultural for some of us, but they are by no means protecting anything. It's especially not protecting anything when it's preventing our hair from getting the air it needs. If you want a protective style for healthy hair, there are numerous ways to tuck your ends away in cold weather while still being able to keep them moisturized. Try mini braids without extensions, twists without extensions, twist outs, braid outs, tie your hair in a bun, fake hair buns, or better yet, leave your hair natural and wear a satin winter hat in cold weather. All these styles protect your hair and still allows you to look at and protect your length retention. Don't buy into the celebs telling you they have long hair under those wigs. Yes, they do, but they also have hairstylists that know how to save those dead ends, and some of them do just have better genetics. I know that's not what some of you want to hear, but taking hair advice from people who only have their hair out 10 days a year or who only wear their hair out for social media content is not what you should be doing if you want healthy hair. But if you don't believe me, ask yourself if this was all about protecting one's hair. Why do we need to protect our hair in the winter and summer? Why are black men less likely to suffer from alopecia than other races of men, but black women more likely to suffer from traction alopecia than other races? What are we protecting? If you suffer from afro dysmorphia, I understand that wearing your natural hair out more often may seem like a challenge, but you have to start from somewhere. Start off small by trying out protective styles that don't require the use of plastics, such as Kanekalon hair or any hair extensions. Hey, maybe even try being a straight natural for a while. Buy yourself some cute hair accessories to go with the new look. Have fun with it. Challenge yourself daily and learn to love your hair texture. We are constantly told that rare features are beautiful. Blue eyes were deemed more beautiful because it's rare. Blonde hair was deemed beautiful because it's rarer. Why not have that same mentality for rare features that only occur in black people? Any race can have straight, wavy, or curly hair. Yet kinky type 4 hair is only found in people with sub-Saharan African ancestry, Jarawas, and people of Papua New Guinea. It's rare, so embrace it now, instead of hoping and waiting for it to become a beauty standard in a white country. It's not going to happen and shouldn't have to.